Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. It's Franz, Sidney again. And today we have Jodi Takhar, who is a clinical hypnotherapist from Vancouver in Colombia. So welcome to the show, Jodi.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It is a pleasure for me because today we're going to talk about another very interesting topic. I always say that every episode, this is so good, but it is good. It is a topic that most of you will resonate with because we all have a friend who is dealing with alcohol addiction and cannot stop or will stop and relapse. We want to help them. We don't know what to do. So, this episode in particular, we're going to talk about John, I don't know, this person who was in relapse. And after being recovered for a couple of years, he went back to a really tragic situation where he couldn't stop. And so Jodi was able to help him. How does that happen? And let's have a look first at the problems that happen. So when you are drinking, it isn't just you and your health and your emotion, it's what happens at work, it's what happens in your family, it's what happens with your friends, your partner, your kids, how they treat you, and how you feel perhaps a bit guilty or a bit snappy or a bit like always on the edge because people will pick up on that and will tell you you have to stop and you feel that it's impossible. So there are loads of things. It isn't just drinking, isn't it? It's the whole life is affected. So let's talk about this client and let's go straight in. How was your client doing? What was his life like when he met you for the first time?
The first time I met him, he was actually doing really well. He had been in recovery for a little while, a couple of years. He had been, his life came back together after he decided he wanted to get sober. He had his job back, he had his wife back, he had his kids back. Everything kind of came back together for him. And he was doing amazing. And then he wasn't doing amazing. And something happened. He didn't know what. And he started drinking again. And when I talked to him after after he initially relapsed, he thought he could just have one or two beers and be fine. And that's not the case.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen often for people who get clean and sober.
Mm-hmm.
So he was able to have a couple beers for about, I don't know, 3 or 4 days. And then the weekend hit and he went off to the races. So he got really drunk. He drove his car. He smashed his car up. He ended up in jail. It happened really fast.
It's bad.
Mm-hmm.
So he thought he was in control.
Yes.
And just a little bit, I'm in many alcoholic forums and I see the stories. It's very easy, very easy to fall again. So when he crashed, then he said, right, that's it, I have to do something serious about this, or?
No, he thought he could keep going. He thought he could manage. He thought, oh, it's just once. That was just the first time. I'm going to try it again. I can do this. I can do this. And he couldn't. It just got uglier and uglier and uglier and uglier. And he couldn't stop.
Yes. I can't imagine what it must feel like to have his urge to. I wonder what he was trying to cover up with unconsciously with a drinking. What was the thing that they were trying to?
Well, it started with a feeling, right? Just a feeling. He didn't get a promotion at work that he thought he deserved. And he felt like he was totally incompetent. So it was just that feeling. And he didn't talk to anybody. He just went and tried to take care of it himself. And it didn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't. So that's why we go to people who can help us. So you finally ended up sitting in front of him and maybe on Zoom or in person and picking up what was going on there. So how were you able to help him? What did you use?
Mostly advanced conversational hypnotherapy. I find that works the fastest and the best to get underneath, because drinking, alcoholism, addiction, all of it is just a symptom, right? It's just the coping mechanism that we use to cover up whatever else is going on. So if I can get if I can use ACH and get underneath what's actually happening, then we can find the root.
Right.
And when we can find the root, then we can heal.
I'm not sure I've ever asked anyone, but can you define what advanced conversational hypnosis is? Because some people might not know what it is.
So it's not like traditional hypnotherapy. You don't lay in the chair and close your eyes and walk down the stairs and end up in this trance place. It's very different. It's basically a conversation back and forth. And the way I ask these questions, the way I structure the questions, and the way the person answers, they take themselves into little blips of trance and into the subconscious to pull out the answers.
Mm.
So it happens a lot faster. The therapy is a lot quicker. The therapy starts as soon as the person sits in the chair. They're not waiting for me to take them down the stairs and all that stuff. And because it accesses right through to the subconscious, it's able to change the conversation that happens within the brain and the heart and the soul, or your subconscious. So it moves through the blocks and figures out why they're there, and then is able to repair them and make it so that it's a straight conversation all the way through.
Amazing. So did you then find out with him what was the real issue that was bringing him back to the bottle all the time?
Yeah, it was a basic feeling of he didn't belong and he felt unworthy, and it was brought up from childhood trauma with his dad. So going back and we did 2 sessions, and going back and undoing that, and well, asking the questions, is that really true? Do you really believe that? And then working through, how did he get to a place to now where that's what he carries around?
Wow.
And then reframing and a whole bunch of other things. Yeah.
And you reframe. So he came out like a different person. He must have felt absolutely wonderful, because this is trauma that is stored in your body and it goes for years and years. And it does mold everything you will do, because those feelings are there and they're like a weight on there. So it must be very painful. And at the same time, must be really light when you realize you are not the person, not a child. You're not a victim anymore. You are living your life, and how wonderful it is. What was the result of him being able to trace down exactly the problem, and then with ACH being able to come out of it? What happened in his life?
Not much for the first 3 weeks, other than he noticed he was drinking less, and he wasn't really that interested in drinking. So he went home and he carried on, but it wasn't doing what he wanted it to do. So he just, after about 3 weeks, why am I doing this? And he just stopped. I had connected him with a medical team in case for withdrawal, because alcohol is one of those things that can do a lot of damage if you stop right away. It can actually kill you. So it's not a good idea to just stop without medical support. So I connected him with an addictions doctor and a support team around him, so that he could get into detox, or if he needed to, or have the medical support he needed to. Because he just kind of slowed down over the 3 weeks and then stopped, he didn't really need that. So, and then he came back and we did some life skills stuff to learn how to communicate more effectively and that kind of thing.
Yeah. I read a lot about the toxicity of the liver and all the stuff dumping here and there. So very dangerous to abruptly stop completely. And I think this is inner wisdom coming out there. There's now, instead of taking him to poison himself, he was taking it to have a slow recovery, so he will be healthy through that. And it was just a habit that he needed to drop. And he dropped it when he was ready to drop it. And so there was a really good outcome. So what happened with you were telling me about the relationship with his family. What was the change that happened then?
Well, his wife, bless her, called me and she's like, he's so different. He's so different. And I don't know sort of what to do with this guy now, because now I don't trust him. And now I don't, like, he relapsed and I don't know how to deal with all of this. And so she came in for a couple of sessions of conversational hypnotherapy to undo some of her patterns around the relationship and around her inability to let go of control and why that happens for her. And so their relationship has completely changed.
That's incredible. And
Mm-hmm.
if you think about it, when you are alcoholic or addicted to something, your whole family is involved in this very difficult situation. So they don't know if they can trust you, what's going to be hidden in the wardrobe. And yeah, they can't leave you alone. And then there's a change. This guy has stopped completely.
Yeah, and I
Yes.
mean he's still doing all the things that he did before. Like he's still going to his support groups. He's still doing counseling when things come up. He still has a sponsor and all those parts and has his community support.
Mhm.
But he's more doing service there rather than
Being the victim
being
of
there for himself.
it's incredible. And just a
Mm-hmm.
few sessions. I mean, some people, I can't afford it, but actually, this is alcohol was expensive anyway. So and the
Mm-hmm.
money somewhere else. And then I always love when I see the pictures of those who have stopped the drinking and they put the before and after, especially ladies, and they were all red in their face, really, really red. And sometimes they look a little bit swollen to me. And then
Mm-hmm.
when they stop after a few weeks, you can see a completely different person, much more relaxed. And the trace of a face is gentler. The eyes are bigger, and some people have eye bags or something, and they're gone. It's just incredible. So it's
It's
a big
pretty cool to
thing.
watch.
It's a big thing. So now that everyone is happier and everything, and we want this to be available to other people. So
Mm-hmm.
pretending that hopefully in the audience there is a person that has this problem or somebody in the family, what would be the first thing that they could possibly do to get out of a situation, in your opinion, your experience?
Well, for the family members, the first thing you do is learn as much as you can.
Hmm.
Educate yourself about what you're dealing with because it's not what you think it is. They're not being selfish and self-centered and like choosing alcohol over you and all those pieces. That's not the reality. It's what it looks like for sure, but
Hmm.
that's not actually what's happening. And so learn as much as you can. And the second thing is to focus on yourself and what you need and what you feel and set your back. Like if things aren't okay, we teach them how to treat us. So if my partner is drinking and bringing it in the house and I'm uncomfortable with that, I need to teach him that that's not okay. So I have to set boundaries and learn how to do that.
Hmm.
And then the third thing is get some help for yourself. Work out what it is that, and ACH is the best way I know how to do it is because I was in counseling for years around this stuff. And
Hmm.
ACH is the best way I have been able to find to get underneath that because we choose who we choose to work out our things that we've learned, our patterns and our childhood and heal, I
Hmm.
believe. So if a partner shows up in my office, I'm going to go, it's not really about the alcoholic. It's about the person. And we're going to go underneath and figure out why it is that you're doing this pattern and engaged.
Yeah. So could you explain? So if a person is debating whether we should do hypnosis, which is not really well advertised, not well known, or counseling, what would be the difference? So if we choose a path of counseling, what are their outcomes normally for alcoholic problems?
Counseling often, I mean, it's therapeutic. It's validating. It's wonderful. I was a counselor, quote counselor, and still do some of that stuff.
Mm.
Because it's relevant in some places, but the process takes so long.
Mm.
It takes a long time,
Mm.
right? So what someone pays for counseling for 10 sessions is on the other side, 4 sessions of conversational hypnotherapy.
Right, the big
So,
difference.
and in the counseling part, it's probably not, it's probably still, that problem is still hanging around.
Right.
Because often what we ends up being talked about is the symptoms or crisis management,
Right. Yeah, it's the symptoms.
right?
And
Mm-hmm.
also going back all the time to how bad this thing, and maybe even reinforcing how bad this is. So I'm drinking because my husband is terrible, because my child is addicted, because my job is so you keep going on about it. It's good just to have somebody to vent with, but in the end, you're just reinforcing this belief. It's really bad. And maybe the counselor goes, yeah, I totally get it. And you think, yeah, this is really bad. So you don't get out.
Well, you don't get anywhere. You just keep talking in circles. I can write that stuff in my journal. I don't mean to be crass, but it's true, right? Like I can write that stuff in my journal and get the same effect. So if I really want to go in and solve what's happening, then hypnotherapy all the way.
That's the thing, because a few times I was talking to one of my best friends who is a counselor, and he said, well, I'm like person-centered, so I will just listen to them. I don't have a strategy or a plan when they come over. They just talk, and I listen. And I was like, what do you do on the second session? Oh, I just listen. I was like, wow. So a best friend could be cheaper if we just listening. I couldn't understand the point, but I can see in certain cases can be really helpful to actually vocalize something so you realize what's going on. But I see here that you want to get out of a situation as fast as, because it's actually life or death for some of the people, because they are told to stop because their liver is going and all their relationship is going. So I can see it's a good choice to have, try on hypnosis. And I know you do that, you offer that, you are in Vancouver. So do you have like a Facebook group? What do you offer to help people?
I have a website and I have a YouTube channel and I have Facebook. Most of the stuff I just post on my regular personal page. But I also have a Families Do Recover Facebook page. I have Instagram and you can find me on any one of those.
Excellent. So guys, you're going to have to check all these websites and things, maybe get into the email list of Jodi, because I think that's a lot of stuff here. And many will think, in my experience, that it's impossible to stop. And other people that I know from all these forums think, oh, I don't want to totally stop drinking because they are heavy drinkers. I just want to go to 1 or 2 a week. And I'm like, why? And sometimes having a good chat with a counselor, with a hypnotherapist, that helps to see why do you actually want to stick to 1 or 2 a week? What is the reason behind that? And then with hypnosis or conversational hypnosis, you can actually go down to see why. Are you thinking you're missing out on something? Is drinking still looking like a glamorous thing to do, to socialize? And so then it's so useful because it helps you to see what's really going on, why are you still attached to that? Sometimes it's just a habit, isn't it? But also a lot of peer pressure, especially in England, where I was for almost 30 years. It's a thing of going up to the club, and on Saturday you drink and you get drunk, and then you get home completely dead, and then the weekend you're in pieces, and then maybe during the week nothing, and then back again every weekend you get drunk. And I remember when I first moved to England in 1996, I was driving around Norwich, which is a beautiful medieval city, and there was this nightclub. And it was on a very special building near the cathedral. Some people listening will know which building it is. It's black and white, Victorian, pre-Victorian. And it's all like that on the wall. And it looks like it's falling. And inside there was a nightclub. And there were all these ladies there. It was like October, November. It was fiercely cold, for our weather. And it was kind of rainy and kind of chill. And there were all these ladies there wearing like a little top and a miniskirt with no tights. I was like, wow, how are you gonna, because we were going to the club, say, how are you gonna cope with this weather? And they go, oh, don't worry, Franz, because, once I'm there, I drink and that's gonna warm me up. I was like, wow, I just put a coat. I must be so old fashioned. I was 30. I just out of tune with, but that's a fashion. So I think that's, it could be that once you do this therapy, you realize that you're not drinking because of anything. You're just drinking because you thought it was so cool. And now you're stuck because it becomes an addiction, doesn't it, afterwards? And it makes you feel like cheerful for a little while. And so that's if not everyone will have a trauma, not everyone will have, but there are always hidden reasons. And that's why ACH will be so good. So yeah, thank you. That was very enlightening to see. Yeah. And I would like to hear in 1 year how your client is doing now.
Absolutely.
Maybe,
He's given me permission to share as long as I don't use his name.
Yeah, maybe he will want to help others as well,
Oh, he does. He does. He's very active and helping people. And
Yeah.
It's quite amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe he will even become a counselor or a hypnotherapist one day,
Maybe.
thinking, this helped me. So he has to help everyone else.
Maybe.
And
No.
yeah, it will be amazing. Well, I'm glad we had this chat, Jodi. So I'm really thankful. And I hope maybe you come back one day with another story.
I
Could be a
will.
totally different story. Who knows?
Absolutely.
Because, and broken families due to alcohol are a big thing. So it's important to keep the topic in mind all the time. It's very real. So thank you again for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you to all of you listening to us, and thank you for making this show really good and great. We are climbing the chartable, going up and up. And do share the episode with your friends, because maybe one of them is a secret drinker. Lots of them don't tell you they're drinking. You just find out. And lots of them are CEOs and corporate people, and nobody knows. Even their own husband doesn't know they drink because they can't cope. So share it with compassion, no judgment, because there are pains they want to hide. And maybe subscribe to the channel so that we can have more listeners finding out about how to create the life that you want by using mindset techniques and by using very often ACH, advanced conversational hypnosis, sometimes counseling, sometimes RTT or whatever else, but it's just good to know there is hope for everyone. So thank you again. Take care, and I'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.